January 28th, 1999 was a day that changed my life. I guess like any other day, you go into it not knowing exactly what's going to happen. But that particular day, I had high expectations. And then what happened surprised me, changed me forever. But just to give you a little context, I grew up in the television and the entertainment industry. For the most part, I've been a television director for decades. I was touring with entertainment acts, doing corporate work, doing broadcast television, and I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. Just the nature of what I did meant that I traveled a lot. And I was at a point in my career where I was on the road almost every week. Now, I say that even as I had married my high school sweetheart, who I'm still married to, madly in love with her. We had 5 kids, but the nature of my work had me at a place where I had become somewhat of a absentee father and absentee husband. I'd show up at all the right times and do what I believed were the right things and provided well for the family, but I wasn't around. And I did not realize completely what the cost was, but I had a stirring in my heart that said I needed to change. And then a friend approached me. He said, "Have you ever thought about doing a documentary project?" I said, "Well, yeah, I have. In fact, I've done a lot of long-form video production work, but never a self-produced documentary project." He said, "I've got an idea, and let's develop it." So we did. We developed the project. The project went well, but I think a really important thing about the nature of the work that we do is that people celebrate the idea, I did it. I got it done. We produced this project. But the truth is, in the production world, production without distribution is just a fun hobby, and we need distribution. And as we finished the project, we got a call out of a company in Nashville and said, "We love your project, and we'd like to distribute it." That was crazy great news. But not only this, it wasn't just a distributor. They said, "Fly to Nashville. Let's have a meeting in late January, and I have a big advance check to give you." Even better. So, needless to say, after years of traveling on the road and working with celebrities and rock stars, I was going to be my own documentary producer, and I had a check waiting for me in Nashville. So when I got on that plane out of Portland, Oregon, I remember flying out of Portland and looking out over the Cascade Range. It's absolutely stunning and beautiful. It was a gorgeous day. And I remember thinking to myself, today, my life is going to change forever. Today is going to be a change like I've never imagined. My career is going to take a leap that's going to set me on an exciting new course, and hey, maybe I'll be a better father. Maybe I'll be a better husband. I just didn't know. But about 20 minutes in that flight, oddly enough, I started to feel ill and like kind of sick to my stomach, maybe a little dizzy, which is strange because I'm never, ever, ever, ever sick. I'm just not sick. And I'm flying all the time. So to have this type of sensation was so new and so foreign to me. I obviously got concerned. And I remember sitting there, and I was with my best friend. He was on his way to Nashville, Timothy. He's a gospel singer, one of the greatest gospel singers of the world, actually. And he's going to Nashville, too. And I don't want to say anything to Tim, but I began looking in the seat in front of me. And there was the bag, you know, the sick bag. And I remember thinking, no, not the bag. The more I fixated on what I didn't want to happen, the more things started to collapse in around me. It's as if I was starting to see through a tunnel, and I started to feel tingling. And it got so bad, I turned to Tim. I said, "Tim, something's not right." And that's the last thing I said. Before my eyes rolled back in my head, my arms flopped by my side, and my heart stopped. Now, at first, Tim wasn't sure if I was joking or what, but he recognized, he could see what was happening in my body, my skin. And interestingly enough, just 2 weeks before this incident, Tim had been in a situation where he witnessed someone having a heart attack. And he said it looked just like that scenario. The body, the way you flopped, the way you were laying in the seat. So Tim, not knowing CPR though, knew about doing chest compressions. And he began reaching over into the window side of the plane, just doing chest compressions. Now, just for context also, know this. I'm a little Irish guy. I'm not a tall man, but Timothy's built like an NFL linebacker. So when Tim is reaching over me and pounding on me in the chest, it created quite a scene. Then, as Tim describes it to me, nothing happened. I didn't move. I didn't respond. So Tim literally picked me up and put me in the aisle in the middle of the plane and began beating on my chest and beating on my chest over and over again. Still nothing. And again, according to Tim's account, he pulled back his fist fully prepared to break my ribs now. And as he pulled back his hand, now, just on the physical side, of course, the whole episode was very disturbing to the plane, and it ultimately resulted in the pilot making an emergency landing in Rapid City, South Dakota. Rapid City, which is a great community but not equipped for having sudden surprise airliners plop in their town. We were greeted by ambulance and I was rushed to the hospital. They began doing a battery of tests, thinking for sure I had a heart attack, but they couldn't find anything. In fact, the only thing they could find was that I was extremely dehydrated. So after about 3 hours of observation and pumping me with fluids, they said, "We're going to release you." And they let me go. So Timothy and I found a spot at a little motel about 4 blocks away from the hospital. We spent the night, and I immediately plotted my plan, despite what crazy thing happened, to get to Nashville to get that check. Well, I did get that check. Immediately came back to my cardiac wing in Portland, where they did a series of tests, and they diagnosed me with malignant neurocardiogenic syncope. Basically what it means, it's malignant, you can die from it. Neuro's brain, cardio's heart, and syncope means out of sync. The only way they can prevent it, they don't know what causes it, but the only way they can prevent it is to put a pacemaker in your chest. And in fact, I still have my first pacemaker. I'm now on my third one now because I have to change the batteries out. But that little baby went into my chest, and along with the death experience, which I'll explain in more detail, it means that this thing had to go off at least a half a dozen times a day to keep me alive. And the combination of my death experience and facing the possibility of death every day has changed me forever. Now, all the stuff that's happening on the outside in this dimension looked like a medical emergency. Tim was panicked. The plane was panicked. But let me tell you how I felt. I remember turning to Tim and saying something's not right. But the minute I closed my eyes, I crossed over from the threshold of the dimension of time to the dimension of eternity. And I entered a space that, in all honesty, I was terrified at the prospect of entering. Now, a little bit more context. The way I grew up as a child, I grew up in a religious home. My father, whom I love, he's passed away many years ago, and he tried, but he was very, very, very abusive, physically, verbally. And I think, like a lot of us, any authority we have in our life, particularly parental authorities, we superimpose that idea of however it's manifested as authority or love or discipline as to what we perceive God as. And even though I said all the right things in school and church and yeah, God loves you and blah, 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 and all that stuff, deep down I believed that if the day ever came that I would come face to face with God, I was going to get a finger in my face, and it was going to sternly tell me, you failed. You messed up so bad. You are such a disappointment. You could have been something if you'd lived up to your potential. But you didn't even come close. I could say there's hundreds of lies just like that. But I was so convinced that despite whatever outside religious declarations I could make about God's goodness, deep down I felt that I was going to face a hideous and mean-spirited God that was going to tell me how horrible I was. That's not what I experienced. When I crossed over, and I can't tell you, was I in heaven? I can't even tell you where I was. I mean, it's not one of those things where you cross over and some people say, oh, I saw golden streets, and maybe there was a yard sign that says, welcome to heaven, or something like that. It wasn't like that at all. I was abruptly and suddenly and overwhelmingly thrust into the presence of God. And it wasn't as if, some people say, oh, and what you look like, and da-da-da. It's as if this was not a place for words for me. It was a place of just an overwhelming sensation that I was now not only in the presence of the divine, but I was in the presence of the embodiment of love. And if you can try to imagine what eternity would be, just from a physics standpoint, that you says as high as you can look up, or as low as you can look, or as right as you can right, it doesn't end. And that was to me as much the presence of God, but more so the overwhelming sense of God's love, not just an objective body of love, but a love that loved me. It was so foreign to what I perceived God would be. It was so foreign to my inner voice, the echoes that ripple through our head from the lies that are told to us as children about our inadequacy, and our unworthiness and our lack of value. And I recognize that, yeah, I'm loved, that God sees me as a miracle. And maybe more important is that it's not just me, it's that He recognizes you as a miracle. And that God doesn't just know us. God doesn't just like us. God doesn't just love us. But the creator of the universe is madly in love with you. And the creator of the universe is your biggest cheerleader, your greatest friend, your closest partner. In every tear you've ever shed, He shed with you. Every hole you've ever held, He's held you. Clean you've ever cleaned, He's drained with you. And He's been cheering you along every second and every breath of your life. That connectedness, needless to say, overwhelmed me. The other thing that was so stunning about that experience was the recognition that I had crossed over from a dimension of time and space to a dimension of eternity. And I couldn't put it into words at the time, but only now in retrospect I see it's as if we entered a dimension where everything that ever has happened and everything that will happen has happened. And that sense of landing and conclusion, completeness, also gave me enormous peace and a sense of also excitement, encouragement, hope. So as I was experiencing all this and just really absorbing it, and I will tell you, it's been years since this has happened. To this day, I still absorb what that means and what I felt. And new insights come in and go, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, that's what that meant. To that degree, it changed me. And honestly, while Tim was having this emergency episode at 30,000 feet, I was having this incredible, life-changing experience at the height of eternity. And I can also say it while his episode trying to revive me might have lasted 2 or 3 minutes. I don't know exactly, no one was timing it, but what probably seemed a long time. I may have been, according to eternal figures, in the presence of God for 1,000,000 years. I don't know, but suddenly I came back. And I remember that second that all of a sudden I regained consciousness. It's like I came through a threshold. There's some people, they talk about dying and they go to a tunnel and then they go some light. My exit was fast and instantaneous. My journey back, that's where the tunnel was. It was that being pulled back into the dimension of time and space and into my body where I was about to begin my life anew. And I went back just like that. And I was overwhelmed at how loud our world was. I mean, seriously. As I said, getting on that plane, I remember thinking that day my life's going to change forever. And it has. One thing that I have absolutely no fear of is death. Because I know we live. But more importantly, I know that there's a God that's madly in love with us. Madly in love with you. And when I hear people say, I'm dying, or I'm going to die, secretly, there's a part of me that my heart aches for the family. My heart aches for the process, but my heart rejoices for the outcome. Because it's better than someone telling you they're going to Disneyland, they're going to Europe, they're going to experience something. I go, oh, trust me, what you're about to experience is going to blow your mind and change you forever. I also mentioned that because of the pacemaker now, it means that I now live with a condition that if there's any mechanical failure, it means that I might not get up tomorrow morning. It means that my heart might take a dramatic shift, even as I share the story with you, and I might close my eyes and be gone. So when I wake up in the morning, I acknowledge that breath, not only as a prayer, but as a gift now I have to give to others. Because I believe that my next breath, my next day, is something I didn't earn. It's something I didn't deserve. And I can't say I paid money for it or did some ethical evil. I believe on my heart it's a precious gift. And if we're given that precious gift today, how are we going to use that to make an impact on the lives of those around us? Be sure when the shines, staring across the sky. Be sure when the shines.